Most people think building glutes is just about squats and hip thrusts. But if that were true, every girl doing those moves would already have big glutes by now. The truth is, you can train for years, lift heavy, and track every macro perfectly, and still never actually activate your glutes the way they're meant to. I see it all the time. Strong girls who can hip thrust 200 pounds but can't feel their glutes during a single rep. I was one of those girls as well. And that's not because they're lazy or doing the wrong exercises. It's because the way your body's wired to move can completely override your glutes, forcing your quads, hamstrings, and even your lower back to take over instead. So if you've been training hard and still don't see any growth, this is the reason why. 90% of people jump straight into compound lifts without teaching their body where the glutes even are in the first place. They go into these heavy lifts expecting their glutes just to respond right away because you have weight to resist against, and that is just not the way it works. And I wish this information could go around as much as possible, so make sure you share this video with your friends if you have any that is interested in growing their glutes, because it is such a misconception that you just go into the gym, lift heavy, and your glutes will just grow immediately from there. And that is the exact mindset that makes so many women waste so much time, money, and effort for barely little to no results. Again, I know because I went through it myself for 5 years straight until I discovered and started evolving and developing my groundbreaking glute shelf system called Glute Reset. And so now I'm in a place to confidently fix this really big problem that women have, and men too. What happens when you go into the gym and just lift heavy right away is your quads will take over almost every single movement, especially really important movements for glute growth like Bulgarian split squats. And I'm sure if you've ever tried Bulgarian split squats, you realized really fast that you were not feeling them in your glutes, so you quit and you moved on to an exercise like hip thrust or deadlifts where you did feel them. That was supposed to be your sign that you do not have the proper neural establishment from your brain to your glutes in order to go into heavy movements like deadlifts and hip thrusts and go lighter and lighter in weight until you're basically at body weight, until you actually feel the muscle and can contract, feel, and control the muscle. Then you layer on weight onto that, not the other way around. If you stick with doing that, you're going to stay quad dominant for the rest of the time you're ever weight training your entire life. If you do not listen right now, that is what is going to happen, guaranteed, if you do not listen to this advice that I'm giving you right now. Trust me, I've tested over hundreds of women on this, not even just myself, for many years. I applied the same strategy to everyone that's doing glute reset and one-on-one coaching clients for years. They all have seen the same results. It is because of exactly what I'm telling you right now, along with so many other things, but I wanted to just preface this thing, as this thing alone makes a huge difference. I distinctly remember thinking I was completely the problem. I remember genuinely believing I just didn't get the genetics where you're able to grow that shelf that's on goes viral on TikTok and stuff. I just always had flat glutes that were not responding. They're very pancakey and they just didn't respond to anything. As you can see here, it just wasn't good. So I did as much as I could, but I thought my peak glute growth was when I was lifting the heaviest I was ever lifting, and that's just what it was, and I couldn't really do anything about that besides getting the little bit of growth that I could. Come to find out, after my lower back injury, after being forced to use no weight at all for 30 days straight, after being out of the gym for a whole year, that is when I discovered this groundbreaking method, because I started seeing the most growth I had ever seen, not only in a year worth of heavy lifting when I did do heavy lifting, but in all 6 whole years. I beat it out within 1 month of doing the method that I've evolved and created into the Glute Reset now. and it is just the most amazing discovery. I don't think there's any studies on it. Again, like I said in the last video, it's not very studied, the glute growth industry, because it's not only brand new, bodybuilding as a whole is brand new, so there's not much funded research in it. So discoveries like this should be super important. What I realized in my research in this method is the neural pathways were not there before to grow with heavy weight, so I needed to start all over with no weight at all. That completely solved the problem of not having the neural pathways in my brain to locate and find and control and contract the glutes in the first place. So how was I expecting to grow with heavy weight in my glutes if nothing was actually being contracted, controlled, and felt in that area? That is where I discovered this groundbreaking method that is now known as Glute Reset Today. I'm going to be getting a patent on this method in the near future. That is how big of a discovery this is. So you will not find anything like this at all in the entire industry right now, at least that I could find. I searched everywhere and it doesn't exist, and I'm so happy to make it into existence now, because it should be the one and only way you're going about growing your glutes, yet no one is doing it like that. And I'm just so happy to have discovered it. I thank God for that. It was truly a blessing in disguise, that injury that left me out of the gym for a year. I stopped everything in order to evolve and develop and test, mass test for Glute Reset System, the one that's in the description now. And it has just been amazing. The transformations already have been insane. I've never seen anything like it, and I want you to be part of it too. And things that women and men that want to grow their glutes, specifically a glute shelf, don't even think about is something like being able to stretch the glute as much as possible without injury. And this means getting your hip mobility where it's supposed to be. I know it's probably what you do not want to hear is wasting time on hip mobility and stretching. I know, because I felt the same exact way. But something truly big and meaningful unlocks when you are able to get the full stretch in your glute. The more stretch in your glute that you're able to achieve is the more growth you're able to get. So in order to get more stretch, you need to be able to have open and free hip flexors. And this is something that holds a lot of women back as well, is having tight hip flexors, stealing tension whenever they go into movements like Bulgarian split squats, hip thrusts, or anything like that for glute growth. They're not even able to get even 50% of the glute stretch that's required to get the glute shelf that I'm talking about in this video, that I specialize in delivering to people in Glute Reset, my system for glute shelf. So I make that a really important factor in Glute Reset. Again, this is amongst so many other really important things that would take me hours and hours to deliver in just one video, but this is something that I have not mentioned before that is actually very, very important to be able to get that required glute stretch that needs to happen in order to get that glute shelf that you're wanting. Feeling your glutes is not random. It's a skill you have to build. When you're in the gym, you should not be focusing on the weight in your hand, moving the weights, just getting the reps done, counting reps, how much longer you have till you're able to get to the end, if you're losing balance or not. Stuff like that is the most common things that people are thinking about when they're doing Bulgarian split squats. A very few women and men that are trying to grow their glutes think about the correct thing while they're growing their glutes. And it's all about what you're thinking about when you're trying to grow your glutes that makes it or breaks it for you. The correct thing is not all those things. It's actually the complete opposite. So during the sets that you're doing, you need to be thinking about the muscle alone. Think about how you can locate, cue, feel, contract, and control and target the glute as you're going down slowly with light weight and as you contract powerfully back up. That is super crucial in your ability to grow the glutes, because without that you'll lack the neural pathways in order for your brain to locate and find the glutes to contract in the first place with heavy weight in the future, let alone without any neural pathways. Every single time it's always going to go to the quads as long as you're not thinking that way. You need to redirect your brain every single time it starts to go to the quads, to the glutes, and to be able to do that that, you cannot be having hundreds of pounds of weight on your body because your brain will never even allow you to do that under that much weight in order to prevent injury. So as a summary of glute reset, and it's in the description now, by the way, again, it's only limited to 1,000 people, but phase 1 is to feel the glutes in the first place. It takes time and focus to develop these neural pathways from the brain to the glutes. It's not just these little activation movements before heavy lifting like you're probably used to. Phase 2 is the growth phase, where you're actually using those brand new neural pathways that were established in phase 1 to actually feel, contract, and control the weight that you have now, which is very delicately layered on day by day in phase 2. That is why it's named the growth phase. Phase 3 is the sculpt/shape phase. That is where your glutes are gonna finally look lifted, way more lifted than you've ever seen before, but way more lifted, shapely, filled out. That's going to lead you into phase 4, which is the shelf phase. The shelf phase is where you're finally going to see that shelf look that you've always thought was unobtainable because of genetics, just your everyday things, not having the time, not wanting to cook, which, by the way, I don't want any of you to be cooking 3 times a day or counting macros in glute reset. That is just not sustainable at all. For glute reset workouts, it shouldn't be longer than 45 minutes for every workout. Also, phase 1, 2, and 3 can be done completely from home, so you have no excuse not to get the absolute most from glute reset. That's why every single woman that goes through it sees more results they've ever seen before every single time. And then after phase 4, that is when you're finally able to do the exercises that you were doing before glute reset. That is why I named it glute reset in the first place, because it's a complete reset in how you view and think about your glutes mid-set, before your set, after the set. It's very, very important to reprogram your brain with this, and that's what leads to that glute shelf that you've been wanting all this time. And it's all taken care of for you. It's all been tested over hundreds of people for every single progression, and every single weight that's layered on is very delicately chosen and tested throughout many different weight options, as well as it's exactly what I did, the exact roadmap that I did in order to get the glute shelf that you see in this video. It's just developed and evolved to perfection for the masses now. So if you don't want to do any of the creating yourself or figuring out, or trial and error, frustration, the pain points that come along with that, then glute reset completely takes care of that for you. Also, you can only enter the contest that I run for glute reset systems. So you had to have bought at least phase 1 out of my entire glute reset system to be able to enter. So I just wanted to let you know that. If you want to finally grow your glutes, start with phase 1 of my glute reset system. It's 30 days that will completely reset and rewire your brain to not only change how your body moves, but to actually change how your glutes grow. It's going to be insanely fast results, way faster than you probably ever thought was real. So don't give up because you haven't felt it yet. The moment your glutes finally fire is coming. And once it happens, it changes everything. And it's super motivating. The type of motivation that has you become one of those people in the gym that goes without even thinking, because it's so fun and so motivating and so easy. Make sure you comment down below reset if you started in the glute reset system. I'm keeping track of all of them. Also, make sure to take progress pictures throughout your journey of inside glute reset, because you can submit those pictures in any contest that I hold in the future for glute reset transformation contest. So make sure you do that. I will see you in the next one.